sport. There's just something about sweaty men running around playing with balls that captivates all of humankind. And of course, in Australia, it's no different. But you see, compared to the rest of the world, Australia does it a little bit differently. And that's due to one factor that we have that the rest of the world doesn't. Australians. Now there's many different sports that are popular here in Australia, and those include AFL, rugby, basketball, soccer, cricket, and of course drinking, gambling, burning down tobacco shops, youth crime, and stealing cars. But in today's video, we'll be focusing on the sports that are played on the field, not the ones that are played in the shopping centre car park. Anyway, with that said, it's time for me to stop the waffle and get into it. And first up, we're going to start off with the players. Now, 90% of the players in any sporting league across Australia are males under the age of 30. And what does a man in his mid-20s that's earning multiple hundreds of thousands of dollars per year spend his money on? You guessed it, partying and drugs. It seems that every year one of these players from any league is getting caught out using drugs. And while getting caught using drugs isn't that big of a deal if you're something like a roof tiler, if you play for something like the AFL or NRL who probably think that cannabis is a performance enhancing drug, you're gonna be in a lot more trouble. But the best thing about these players getting caught using drugs is the media kicking up a stink and them being forced to apologise on TV. It's always funny to watch one of these players say that they're sorry for their actions and that they'll never do it again, knowing full well that they've got another blockbuster planned for this weekend. Anyway, that's enough about the players. Now it's time to get into the crowd. But before we get into that, I have a massive announcement. For the first time in over a year, I've released new t-shirts. Now as you can see here, these two designs are perfect for things like weddings, funerals, job interviews, and court appearances. So whether it's a first date, you're meeting the in-laws for the first time, or representing yourself in court for $60,000 worth of unpaid parking fines, do it in style with a t-shirt from my cease and desist collection at yorakhunt.com. But if you can't afford a t-shirt, or you'd rather take that money to the pokies and turn it into thin air, you can help support the channel for free by pressing that subscribe button. Anyway, let's get back into it. Now, while most of the action at any sporting event takes place on the pitch, you can't look past the action that takes place in the crowd. And sometimes, if you're lucky, some of the action that takes place in the crowd even makes its way onto the pitch. But we'll get into that later. Now, any good crowd at a sporting match will have people drinking, yelling, chanting, doing the Mexican wave, and if you're lucky, even getting arrested. Now the most infamous example of this would have to be Bay 13 at the MCG during the cricket games. For decades now, Bay 13 has been a mecca, where all of Australia's loosest cricket fans make the pilgrimage and congregate in this one specific seating bay to cause absolute mayhem. Now some typical Bay 13 behaviour includes chanting, drinking, the classic Mexican wave, throwing things at players, the classic beach ball, chanting abuse at the players, and of course, mimicking the players' stretches. Bay 13 is so iconic to the MCG and Australia's sporting heritage that it even has its own Wikipedia page. And you know it's going to be a good read when the Wikipedia page has a criticism section. But as you guys know too well, all good things must come to an end. And in 2019, Bay 13 got gentrified and they turned it into a bar with a dress code and you had to pay for tickets. Anyway, you may recall about a minute ago that I mentioned the antics in the crowd sometimes makes its way onto the field, and that happens in the form of streakers. Now streaking can be done in many different ways. You can be fully clothed, naked, on your own, or with a group, and most importantly, you can either get away with it or get mixed by players and or security. And the best part of course is when they get away and the crowd goes ballistic. Anyway, that's enough about streakers, because now we're going to get into one of the most important sections, and that of course has to be the international shenanigans. And of course, just because it would be rude not to, we're going to start off with the Olympics. Now, if you've ever tried to get a good job in Australia, you'll quickly find out that it's not about what you know, but who you know. And with the Olympics, of course, that's no different. Don't believe me? Well, look no further than Ray Gun. Now, Ray Gun needs no introduction, but I'm gonna give her one anyway. Rachel Gunn is a 36-year-old university lecturer, and she somehow made her way to the Olympics for breakdancing. Now, obviously, she got to this level through hard work and talent, and not because her husband, who was also a breakdancer and a qualified judge, pulled some strings to get her there. Now, obviously, there was zero corruption involved. I mean, just look at this performance. The talent just speaks for itself. Now, I'm gonna leave this performance running in the background while I waffle for a bit, simply because I had to watch it, and that means you have to watch it as well. And also because since it happened a few months ago on the internet, it's basically ancient history, so I have to refresh your guys' memory on it. You see, Ray Gunn's performance was an absolute show, and the fallout was arguably just as bad for her. It was so bad, in fact, that it even overshadowed this Muppet getting caught red-handed trying to buy cocaine in Paris. But you see, hindsight is a great thing, and in hindsight, we probably should have sent Jonah Takalua to represent Australia in breakdancing instead. Anyway, that's enough about Australians in the Olympics, because by now you'd know that every 4 years, it's basically just a free holiday for all of these athletes, and boy do they take advantage of it. Anyway, it looks like we're at the point of the video where I run out of shit to talk about, so instead, to finish it off, we'll go through some of the greatest moments in Australian sporting history. Now, I could only remember a few off the top of my head, so I decided to put up a poll on my Instagram. Make sure to follow me there because that's where I'm most active, and you guys gave me a lot more than I was expecting. So without further ado, let's get into the greatest moments in Australian sporting history. First off, we gotta start with the classic, and that of course is John Howard bowling. Now, politicians are many things, and a lot of them I can't say on YouTube, but one thing that most politicians aren't is good at sport. Don't believe me? Just watch this. Alright, I know that was hard to watch, so let's move on to another politician, and that of course is Scott Morrison bowling over that one child while playing soccer. Now, I know you've probably all seen this video a million times, but from what I can recall, this is the first time on TV a child has been mixed by the Australian Prime Minister. Now, obviously Britain's been there and done that, but Australia's first time has to of course go down in history. Then of course we've got Josh Addo-Carr getting fired from the NRL and then going to work as a labourer. And me, being a Collingwood supporter, this one hurts to say, but Collingwood losing 8 grand finals in a row. And even though this happened roughly 50 years ago, unfortunately it's something we've gotten quite used to. But before I get flamed in the comments, we'll move on to the next one. And for your information, yes, I still do have all my teeth. Next up we have the infamous Trevor Chappell underarm bowling incident. It was the last ball in the Australia vs New Zealand match, and they needed 6 runs to draw the game. When instead of bowling it, Trevor Chappell decided to do a light underarm toss. And while technically not breaking any rules, Australia won the match. And Trevor Chappell was lucky that the batsman didn't try and hit one more 6 with his head. Then of course we've got the Essendon drug scandal, Bob Hawke sculling the beer, which I've already covered in another video, and of course NRL player Nate Miles doing a poo in the hotel corridor. Anyway, to round this video off, I'm going to do something that I've never done before, and that is finish it off with a top 3. Now in third place we have a speech. Now I know this video has been more about ball sports and the Olympics, but there was just no way that I was going to leave out what is quite possibly the greatest speech in all of motorsport history, and that is Jim Richards' speech after he won Bathurst in 1992.
You're a pack of assholes.
Now, after a slightly controversial win in the Nissan Skyline R32, Jim Richards went up onto the podium to claim his trophy, and he was not met with a good reception. Now, after being booed and having beer cans tossed at his head, it was time to make this iconic speech.
I thought Australian race fans had a lot more to go than this. This is bloody disgraceful. I'll keep racing, but I tell you what, this is going to remain with me for a long time. You're a pack of assholes.
And in second place, we've got to give it to the one time that the Australian cricket team got caught with their hands down their pants playing with their balls, also known as Sandpaper Gate. You see, what they were trying to do was rough up one side of the ball with sandpaper so that when they bowled it, it would swing left and right and be way less predictable for the batter to hit. Now obviously in cricket that's a big no-no, and when they got caught red-handed doing it on TV, the captain and vice-captain both got banned for a year. Anyway, before we get into first place, I have one honourable mention, and that has to be Todd Carney turning himself into a water bubbler and drinking his own urine. Anyway, now the time has come, and first place goes to the greatest moment in Australian sporting history, Stephen Bradbury's gold medal in speed skating in the 2002 Winter Olympics. As you can see here, Stephen starts off strong, straight to the back, and for the whole 8 laps he's stuck at the back behind everyone else. But then, on the final lap, the stars align, and the 2 leaders crash into each other. Now you've all seen those crashes in the Tour de France, when all the bikes stack into each other and cause a massive pile-up. You see, this is pretty much exactly what happened with the rest of these speed skaters, except of course, Stephen Bradbury. So Stephen, who looks just as shocked as the rest of us, breezed past the pile of bodies on the floor and claimed the gold medal. Now this is just one of those scenarios that's 1 in a billion, and that's what makes it so funny. And this will forever cement itself as one of the greatest moments, if not the greatest moments, in Australian sporting history. And on that note, it's time to end. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like, subscribe, comment and share, and don't forget to cop some drip, link in the description, if you want to hear more teachings from the prophet of Yorak Hunt. And if you enjoyed this video so much that you watched it all the way till the end, make sure to comment.
What's your name, dude?
Certified turtle.
Are you out your mind? Get him out of here, man. Yep.
To let me know.